Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into Genesis chapter 14 this time.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's not your typical Sunday school story. Kings, battles, intrigue.
A mysterious priest, too. Melchizedek.
Exactly, a historical battle narrative tucked right into this religious text.
I know, right? Such a fascinating blend of genres.
Okay, so let's set the stage. We're in the Jordan Plain, a group of powerful Mesopotamian kings.
Oh, yeah, like a whole empire. Led by this guy, Chedorlaomer.
Right, they've been ruling over the cities there, including Sodom and Gomorrah.
For 12 years, can you imagine?
It's interesting that you chose this chapter, considering your interest in the historical context of the Bible.
Well, it's fascinating to consider the political landscape of that time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these Mesopotamian kings controlling Sodom and Gomorrah, cities known for their wickedness, adds another layer of complexity to the story, wouldn't you say?
Totally. And after 12 years of this, these subjugated cities decide they've had enough. They rebel. Cue the epic clash of titans, the battle of the kings.
It's pretty intense, and this is where things get personal for Abram.
Because of Lot.
Exactly. His nephew. Remember, he chose to live in Sodom despite his reputation.
Yeah, not the best neighborhood.
No, not really. So during this battle, Lot gets caught in the crossfire, taken captive, along with all his possessions.
Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You mentioned in your notes that you're fascinated by the concept of loyalty.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where we see Abram's loyalty in action.
In a big way.
He hears about Lot's capture, and he doesn't hesitate. This shepherd gathers a small army.
318 men, not a huge force.
Nope. And he sets off after these powerful kings. It's giving David versus Goliath, but with a biblical twist.
It really is. And get this, Abram and his men, outnumbered as they are, they pull off an incredible victory.
No way.
They chase the enemy all the way to Dan, defeat them, and then pursue them even further north to Hobah near Damascus. It makes you wonder, how did they manage to pull that off?
That's what I love about this story, full of these little details that spark curiosity. You mentioned slime pits in your notes. What exactly were those? How did they impact the battle?
Ah, yes, the slime pits. Scholars believe these were natural asphalt pits, common in that region. Imagine these sticky, tar-like pools dotting the landscape. They would have made the terrain incredibly treacherous, especially during a battle.
Wow, that paints a pretty vivid picture. I can just imagine these armies clashing amidst these slime pits, adding another layer of chaos and danger to the scene.
Exactly. And it makes Abram's victory even more impressive, right? He and his men not only overcame a larger force, but they did it in a really challenging environment. Talk about strategy.
Talk about a strategic advantage. But after the battle, we have the entrance of this mysterious figure, Melchizedek. You shared some sources about the concept of tithes.
Right.
Well, this is where that idea first appears in the Bible.
Melchizedek. He's one of the most enigmatic figures in the whole Bible, described as the King of Salem and the priest of the Most High God. No backstory, no genealogy, just this sudden, powerful presence. He comes out to meet Abram with bread and wine, offering a blessing.
I love that part.
Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth.
And then Abram gives a tenth of his spoils to Melchizedek.
He does.
But why? What was the significance of that?
This blessing is huge. It's not just a nice gesture. It foreshadows the covenant God will make with Abram, promising him countless descendants and vast land.
Ah, yes, I remember those sources we talked about the significance of covenants in the Bible. This is where that idea starts to take shape.
It is, and it also establishes a link between the material and spiritual realms. Abram's offering, it signifies a recognition of a higher authority, a sense of gratitude towards the divine.
This is more than just a battle story, isn't it? It's laying the groundwork for some major theological concepts.
Absolutely. And it raises questions about Abram's motivations. I mean, was he driven solely by faith, or was there also a strategic element to his actions? It's interesting to think about.
You mentioned Abram's faith, but wasn't there also a strategic element to refusing the King of Sodom's offer?
Ooh, good point.
Remember, the king offered Abram all the recovered goods after the battle. Just give me the people back, he said.
Right. Like a pretty fair deal on the surface, right?
Seems like it, especially after such a costly battle.
Yeah. But Abram surprises us. He refuses the offer, makes a vow to God that he won't take anything from Sodom, not even a thread or a shoelace.
Wait, what? Why would he do that?
That's a great question. It goes to the heart of Abram's character. He's not motivated by material wealth or earthly gain, that's for sure.
So what's driving him?
He trusts that God will provide for him. and he doesn't want anything to tarnish that relationship or his reputation. It's a powerful statement of faith and integrity.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the Sunday school version of this story, but when you really dig into the details, it gets pretty complex. You chose to study this chapter, so I'm guessing you're interested in how faith impacts decisions.
Oh, absolutely. It's a theme that runs throughout the entire text, wouldn't you say?
Totally. And here we see Abram turning down immense wealth because of his commitment to God. What does that say about his priorities? And how does that compare to the way we often make decisions today, maybe based on immediate gain or what's popular?
It's a thought-provoking contrast, isn't it? Abram's actions challenge us to consider what truly matters in life. What are we willing to sacrifice for the sake of our values, our relationships, our faith? Are those things always in alignment?
This brings us to another interesting point, Lot's situation. You mentioned in your notes that you were interested in the concept of loyalty and redemption. Here we see both in action.
How so?
Well, Lot may have made some questionable choices by settling in Sodom,
That's putting it mildly.
but Abram still risked everything to rescue him. Imagine yourself in Abram's shoes, facing an army much larger than yours. What would you have done?
It speaks volumes about the power of familial bonds, doesn't it? And the importance of loyalty. It shows that even when we disagree with the choices of our loved ones, we still have a responsibility to support them, especially in times of need.
Absolutely. It also highlights the idea of redemption. Even though Lot was living in a corrupt city, Abram didn't abandon him. He believed in his nephew's inherent goodness and fought to give him a second chance. You know, this reminds me of that time I tried to help a friend who was going through a rough patch. I really believed in them, even when they didn't believe in themselves.
That's powerful.
It made me realize the importance of extending grace to those who have strayed.
It's a beautiful message. It reminds us that no one is beyond redemption and that we should always extend grace to those who have strayed, just like Abram did for Lot.
Speaking of redemption, this whole story has a kind of redemptive arc to it. It starts with these kings subjugating cities, then the rebellion, this chaotic battle. But in the end, it's about Abram's faith, his loyalty, his refusal to compromise his integrity. It's a powerful message, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And it's all the more powerful because it's set against this backdrop of ancient history and political intrigue. We get a glimpse into the complexities of the ancient world, the challenges faced by those who sought to live a life of faith, even amidst all the chaos and conflict. It's easy to read these stories as simple moral tales, but there's so much more going on here.
I love that you said that because one of the things that intrigues me about this chapter is how it seems to blend different genres. We've got political drama, military action, spiritual encounters. It's almost like an ancient adventure story.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so compelling, even thousands of years later. It's not just a dry historical account. It's a story that speaks to our deepest human experiences, our struggles with faith, our longing for connection, our desire to live a life of purpose.
Okay, so we've covered the key events of Genesis 14. The battle between kings, Abram's daring rescue mission, the mysterious appearance of Melchizedek, and Abram's principled refusal of riches. But I have to ask, why is this story even included in the Bible? It seems a bit out of place amongst all the creation accounts and genealogies.
That's a question that has intrigued scholars for centuries. One interpretation is that this story serves to highlight Abram's character. Remember, we're at the very beginning of Abram's journey. God is about to make this huge covenant with him, promising him descendants and land. So this story is like a sneak peek into the kind of person God chose for this monumental task. It shows Abram as a man of action, faith, and integrity qualities that will be essential as he embarks on this covenant journey with God.
So it's like setting the stage for the larger narrative of God's plan for humanity.
Precisely. It also provides a glimpse into the geopolitical landscape of the time, showing us the complex relationships between these ancient kingdoms and the challenges faced by those who sought to live a life of faith.
You know, it's amazing how much we can learn from just one chapter of this ancient text. You shared in your notes that you were especially interested in Melchizedek. There's so much mystery surrounding him. He just appears out of nowhere, blesses Abram, and then disappears. What do you make of that?
It's one of those details that really sparks the imagination, isn't it? Some scholars see Melchizedek as a prefigurement of Christ, a kind of priestly king who represents a higher spiritual order. Others see him as a symbol of the universality of God's grace, extending beyond the boundaries of any particular tribe or nation.
That's fascinating. It's like there are layers upon layers of meaning embedded in this story, and it's up to each reader, or in this case, listener, to uncover those layers and find their own personal connection to the text.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of these ancient stories. They continue to challenge and inspire us, offering timeless wisdom that transcends generations.
Well, you certainly inspired me to take another look at Genesis 14. There's so much more here than meets the eye. What's one final thought you'd like to leave our listener with as we wrap up part two of this deep dive? It really makes you want to keep digging deeper, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. And that's the beauty of these ancient stories, right?
Yeah.
They continue to challenge and inspire us, offering this kind of timeless wisdom. It transcends generations.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into Genesis 14, what's the one thing you hope our listener will take away from this story?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the key takeaway is the importance of living a life of integrity, you know,
Mhm.
even when faced with really, really difficult choices. Abram's example shows us that true strength lies not in accumulating wealth or power, but in staying true to our values and committing to something greater than ourselves.
It's so easy to get caught up in the pursuit of success, whatever that looks like for you, and lose sight of those core values. But Abram reminds us that sometimes saying no to a tempting offer is the most powerful thing you can do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a message that resonates just as powerfully today as it did thousands of years ago. Makes you wonder what King of Sodom offers we encounter in our own lives, those things that look appealing on the surface, but might compromise our integrity if we accept them.
Ooh, that's a great point. I'm definitely going to be thinking about that. It's like a modern day application of this ancient wisdom.
Right.
As we wrap up this deep dive into Genesis 14, I have one final question for you. What's one thought-provoking question you'd like to leave our listeners with? Something they can ponder as they go about their day.
Okay. Well, we've talked a lot about Abram's choices and the motivations behind them.
We have.
But what about Lot? He seems content living in Sodom despite its, reputation.
Right.
So the question I would pose to our listener is this. What compromises are we making in our own lives, even if they seem small or insignificant at the time? And what would it take for us to choose differently, to align our actions with our deepest values, like Abram did?
That's a powerful question to end on, and it brings us full circle back to that idea of integrity and choosing what truly matters, even when it's hard. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive today. It's been an incredible journey through Genesis 14.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time, may you continue to find wisdom and inspiration in these ancient stories.